Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. Today I am making some scrappy Christmas stockings. I had a question from someone about Christmas stockings and it got me sewing and using some of my scraps. So let's get started. For my stocking today, I am using some leftover batting. I have two pieces that I will be joining together in just a minute. And I'll need it to be about 12 inches by 20 inches. And I have my red and green scraps, and I'll also be using some whites and creams. And I need some fabric for the back of my stocking, and I'm using this heavyweight fabric that is just a cream color that I think will be really pretty for the back of my stocking. Also need a lining, so I'm using this older print, Christmas print, for the lining of my stocking. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put those two scrap pieces of batting together with a zigzag stitch. I'm going to use a large stitch, a wide zigzag, and I'm going to just get these two pieces kind of basted together using the straightest edges that I had on these pieces of batting. And if your pieces are not super straight, just trim the edge to get some straight edges and put them together as you put that zigzag stitch right down the middle. This is a great way to use up those leftover pieces of batting. Now for my pattern, I am hand drawing something. You may have a stocking that you like the shape of already that you could use for a pattern. You could also purchase a stocking at the 99-cent store, Dollar Tree, inexpensive stocking that you like the shape. But here I am just drawing a pattern using two pieces of paper. A printer paper, and I am moving over maybe an inch from one side all the way down on that one top piece, and then on the bottom piece I added some curved lines, you can see there, and this will be my stocking pattern. My stocking pattern fit just perfectly on my scrap piece of batting here, and I just laid it on the batting and cut around my paper pattern. I will be using a sort of a chevron design on this stocking with my scraps. So I'm giving myself a dotted line down the middle so that I have a place to aim, so I kind of know where I am as I move along down the center of my piece of batting here. I have all my scraps ready to go, and I need a square for the top. This square is, I think, 3 inches. Any size square would work. You're just going to be seeing that bottom triangle. So if you want a small or a large triangle, just depends on what size you want at the top. I liked this fabric, and that swayed me on the choice of the square that I'm using on the top there. So I found a little piece of green fabric to begin with. It looks like it's a little bit shy of my 3-inch square, but that's okay, because when I add the next strip, I'll just make sure that I'm covering all of the raw edges. So I'm going to put the right sides together and sew right on top of my scraps, right through that batting. I added another green strip, and all of my strips are not the same width. Some will be narrow and some will be a little bit wider, but I am alternating green, white, red, and white. And some of my whites are actually more tan than white, but here is one of my light colors, or my whites, and you can see it's a print. So I'm going to add that next, and I'm just moving from left to right, filling in this chevron design all the way down. After I had just a few strips on, I went to my ironing board and I pressed and made sure that my point is in line there with the center of my stocking. And after I did some green and white, now I'm adding a row of red strips. The bottom of the stocking, when my strips finished at the bottom, all that was left was the heel and the toe, and I'm using some scraps that just are a little bit wider for those two sections. And when everything was pieced on that batting, I went around and trimmed off the edges, just turned it upside down and trimmed off the excess all the way around this stocking. such a pretty stocking. Now it's time to cut the backing, and I'll also be cutting the lining. So I laid the stocking onto the back section of the stocking, and I'm going to pin it together and cut all the way around. Now that I have the front and the back ready to go, I'm going to take my lining fabric, right sides together, and I will again use the same pattern, and here I'm using the back piece, just making sure that everything is lined up, and I'm going to cut all the way around that stocking pattern and get it ready to work, to put everything together. We're almost done with this beautiful stocking. So what I want to do now is have the back and the front face up, and I'm going to be adding the lining pieces to each of these pieces. I'm going to put a seam along the top, so I'm going to put the right sides together. The right side lining that sort of matches up with the front and the back. So I'm going to sit at my machine here, and I will sew along the top of both of these sets. Now I have two very long sections here. I'm going to put the right sides together, and I will pin them together. I also added a little loop to hang the stocking, and I took a little piece of that backing fabric, that heavy weight upholstery type fabric, and I just folded it into fourths. I folded both edges in and then folded it again. I stitched along the fold so that I would have a nice long hook for my stocking. I tucked that little hook inside the stocking right there at the top, and I'm going to pin all the way around. I'll be sewing all the way around this funny looking stocking, leaving an opening on the inside of the lining so that I can turn it right side out when I'm all done sewing all the way around. I've turned my stocking right side out. I think it's really pretty. I love this design and all these pretty scraps. I will now fold in the raw edges on the, the outside of that lining there. After I push everything out, I'm going to fold in those raw edges and just put a little stitch right along that opening. So I don't need to worry about matching thread or making this look pretty. This is going to be on the inside of the stocking. No one will probably ever see this stitch that I'm adding right now. This is such a pretty Christmas stocking, using all those leftover scraps and even some leftover batting. I really like this design. I appreciate that question that somebody asked me. It got me thinking about how to make one this year, and now I have two. I've made a lot of Christmas stockings over the years, but these are really special. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.